Of course, there are so many issues to discuss. As a matter of fact, governance in Nigeria.
Yes.
Some people said it's a big book that you cannot finish studying for a very long time. And of course, voters registration is something that happens when it's time for electioneering, and of course, participation. The people who get this voters card, how many of them really participate in the election? How many of their votes count like it's been believed by some Nigerians? Today, we have a topic before us, and that is Nigerian's governance. And we want to look at driving participatory democracy through voters registration. And of course, my guest is in the studio as we go talk about this very interesting topic. He is a former presidential aide, a human rights activist, and of course, he's also an author. He's a legal practitioner. So he has actually been in the system, and of course, we want to talk about this very vital issue today. My guest today is Honorable Okoye Obolo Obla. It's good to have you join us on the program this morning.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us. Well, we're looking at participation in governance in Nigeria. What is your assessment of participation in governance in Nigeria? That is, I'm talking about the voters now, their participation in choosing who govern them. What's your assessment, your general assessment of Nigerians?
From experience, it's very poor. And also somebody who has been around. At least I was already a lawyer before the military left the barracks, and then went back to the barracks in 1999. We had a return to democratic civil rule in the country. So I saw the elections in 1999. I saw the elections in 2003. I saw the elections in 2007. I saw elections 2011, 2015, 2019, 2023. So 25 years. I would say that participatory democracy is still very poor in Nigeria. Is still very embryonic, or is very rudimentary, because the awareness is not there amongst the population, people who are supposed to vote and who are supposed to know that if a government doesn't do well, then you have to monitor that government at the end of the 4 years of the tenure of that government, and you use their card to give a red a red card. You bring out the red card against that government by not voting that government, or anybody who is representing you, whether in the Senate, whether in the House of Representatives, whether in the House of Assembly, or whether as a councillor or local government chairman. So my verdict is that it's still very appalling, and that a lot of Nigerians are not aware. They don't have the consciousness, and I don't think even the political parties are doing enough to educate the people, because some of them, the political parties, when they are not, engaged in electionary campaign, they just they go to sleep. It's supposed to be, they should be in the forefront of continuously educating the people, the voters, to be aware. So let's look at those who were not qualified to vote in 2023. Maybe they were trained, they were 16, 17 years, 15 years in 2023, and they were not eligible. But now they are eligible in the next election. What effort are we making to ensure that everybody who is eligible now to vote will participate in the ongoing exercise, to have a card so that he will be eligible to vote in 2027?
All right, talking about red card, that caught my attention, because I'm a sport lover. Now, talking about giving these people red card, if they are not performing, they said democracy is government of the people, for the people, and by the people. But as it is right now, the process of checking these people out of office is so long. don't you think that will be discouraging? Part of the reason why some people just go abandon their cards without participating in elections anymore. What do you think about that?
Well, I don't see there is no shortcut to that. Taking into account the kind of democracy we have, or we are practicing in this country, the system of government. What system of government are we practicing? We are practicing the presidential system of government. The presidential system of government does not give room for you to get up to say that this government is no longer popular, or we don't want this government again. And even if that is the case, it will be the parliament. You go to the parliament, maybe the parliamentarians will pass a vote of no confidence in the government, and the government has to leave, has to resign. That will be a deal in a parliamentary system. We are not running a parliamentary system. We have a parliamentary system from 1954 to 1966, when the military toppled the government, and when the military wanted to return back to the barracks in 1979, they adopted a presidential system, abandoned the parliamentary system. So in the presidential system, you have to wait for 4 years, except you are going to use, like for those who are in the who are legislators, the Senate, the House of Reps, the House of Assembly, or councillors. You can recall them.
But the process
is very cumbersome. The process is very cumbersome. So if you cannot use recall process, you cannot remove them. You have to make do with them until the next election. For the president, governors, you can only remove them maybe through the process of impeachment, and it's also very hard. It's very difficult to impeach. So that is it. We have seen impeachment at the gubernatorial level, governorship level. From 1999 to present, we have seen a lot of impeachment of governors. So, but for the president, Obasanjo, was threatened, with an impeachment. But at the end of the day, the process didn't go through the constitutional rounds. It was aborted. So that is it.
Thank God you're a legal practitioner, as a matter of fact. Now, the issue of voters registration, it happens, there is a timeline for it. Some persons are saying, why give us a timeline? Because some persons, like you said when you got started, some persons already hit the age and they've been waiting. Would they have to wait until INEC will say, okay, registration starts on the 25th of August and it will end at this time, it will start at so time and end at this time? Some persons are saying, why not make it open so that anyone can just go online or walk to a designated point and just do the registration and have the cards?
Well, I don't think that would be ideal. The commission, the Independent Electoral Commission, must have a data of voters in every particular electoral ward, in a polling unit, at the local government level, at the state level. So is it possible to just open up the process so anybody who is eligible to vote can anytime go to online and vote and register to vote? It will be very cumbersome for the the Electoral Commission to plan the elections. The country is a massive country. You are talking of a country with 36 states, federal capital territory, 774 local government areas, 109 senatorial districts, 360 federal constituencies. So it's a massive country, and it's always a big challenge to organize a seamless election, because who are the people conducting the elections? They are human beings. They are Nigerians. They are in a remote, maybe island in Rivers State or Bayelsa State, or a remote place in Borno State, in Adamawa State, in Cross River, and then on that day, the chairman of INEC will not be in that polling unit, but there will be somebody who is recruited by the commission to help the commission conduct the elections. He may make maybe susceptible, vulnerable to make mistakes, or vulnerable to pressure from people, and he will just strictly disregard maybe the regulations that he has been trained to apply or to implement or to manage. He may disregard it. He may not be able to withstand pressure. So that is it. So election management is a big challenge. So we cannot open the process up to say that any day you can just go to where you are supposed to register and vote. So, but I think if we are patriotic, if we are conscious, if we are really aggrieved with the way the things are going in the country, then everybody should make a conscious effort, if you don't have a card, to make sure that you go and obtain a card, because that is the only way you can remove a bad governor.
But some people believe that their votes don't count. We hear it all the time.
I don't think that is a good attitude. Being cynical, being skeptical. Every human being should always be positive that something good will come out of even the worst process. So saying that my vote will not count, you don't help the system. So alternative, what is the alternative? If you do not vote to remove a bad government, so you shouldn't complain, because the alternative is anarchy. The alternative is nihilism. And we don't want anarchy, just like what happened in Nepal, last week. That kind of situation will not help us. So the only way, peaceful way, conventional way, as human beings, is getting a card and making sure that you vote. Making sure that you vote for integrity. You vote for those whom you think or whom you have confidence that when they get into government, they will not change. They will do the right thing and protect the interests of the people. I think that is the proper course, not say, my vote will not count. How do you know your vote will not count? I don't subscribe to that.
But the issue of free and fair elections in Nigeria, because we're talking about governance in Nigeria here. Just a few days ago, it was I think the day before yesterday or so, it was International Monday. It was International Democracy Day, and of course, a lot of people were talking about democracy in Nigeria. Let's look at governance in Nigeria so far. What's your assessment of the level of governance? Because one of the major issues that we have is the issue of free and fair elections. When we're drawing close to electioneering year like this, a lot of people begin to draw back. I will tell you for free that some of the people who even go out to do this registration want to get this card so that they can have a means of identification. What do you have as a means of identification? They say, I have a voter's card because of account opening and maybe some form of documentation. What is the issue with our governance in Nigeria as it has to do with the case of free and fair elections? Because this issue of free and fair election has been reported by a lot of observers, civil society organizations, and even foreign observers. We could remember what happened in 2023, even though that is a bygone. Now we're looking at 2027. So what do you think of the issue of not having a free and fair election and the governing process in Nigeria?
Well, there is no country if we have to follow the true expression or meaning of free, fair, or transparent election. There is no country where you can have an absolutely free and fair election. Let me give an example. Since you mentioned foreign observers, what do we have in countries? Some of the countries where these foreign observers came from. Let's mention the United States of America. That is the bastion of constitutional democracy. U.S. has run a democracy for over 200 years. From about 1776, when it got its independence, they started practicing democracy. And the kind of democracy they are practicing is similar to our own. The kind of government they are running is a presidential system of government, which we have. Is there free and fair election, as you want us to believe in the US? I do not think so. You remember the 2020 election was very contentious, to the extent that President Donald Trump said he was not going to accept the result of the elections he participated alongside Joe Biden. To the extent that people were organized to storm Congress on the day that the results will be certified in Congress, or collected and certified.
That's United States.
Yes, United States. People went there, talks, went there, stormed Congress. They wanted to stop the process. They wanted to truncate the process. And they were saying that Biden did not win. If that kind of a scenario I've just painted can happen in a country that is supposedly the bastion of democracy, the rule of law, constitutionalism, political consciousness, even you can call it civilization, if that can happen in the US, how do you talk less of a country like Nigeria that is a young democracy, in the sense that democracy is just 25 years in Nigeria. Democracy, I said before, embryonic, is nascent, is devolving. And because democracy is a process, just like humanity, just like society, it will evolve from rudimentary level and then attain the zenith, and then you have maybe a near perfect system. So democracy is still evolving in Nigeria. So we may not have it, completely perfect. Look at what the law says. The law says, if you want to obtain an elections, the onus is on you to obtain an elections. If you say elections were not conducted in accordance with the law. But what did the law say? The law says, look, the tribunal, the judge, what the judge should rely on, the parameter, or the barometer he should use to gauge whether the election was free and fair, was this election, did it conform substantially with what the law says? Is this says strictly? Says substantially. Did it reflect the will of the people? So if the 20 million people voted the population of Kano State is 20 million, and 10 million people vote, or even 5 million, does that reflect the will of the people? And the answer will be in the affirmative, yes. Those who vote will reflect the will of the people, even if they are more than the people who did not vote. So what I'm saying, in essence, I am advocating for us to be patient, for us to keep on believing in the system, not being skeptical or cynical that the system will clean up itself and will get to the promised land. And we can also use the instrument of law. The National Assembly is there. Law is an instrument for social engineering. Every society, it is law that you can use to turn that society around. Except you want a revolution. The revolution is dicey, because sometimes the revolutionaries will come into power and will not do the right thing, and they will start fighting amongst themselves. We have seen it in so many countries. So the best way is to use the law, which is a tool, which is an instrument for social engineering, to try to right the wrongs that you see in society. So if the elections are not free and fair, what is the National Assembly doing to ensure that we have a free and fair election? And what pressure are we putting on the members of the House of Assembly? There is no Nigeria who does not have a representative in the National Assembly. You have, I have somebody who's representing.
But when they gather, they become somehow powerful. And
no, I don't think so. I don't think so. So I have a senator representing me. I am from Crossover State. My senator representing me is Senator Ethan Jonah Williams. And I have somebody representing me in the House of Reps, Dr. Alex Ebona. And you have Christopher Bedwell.
Yes,
you have. So all of us should always put pressure on our representatives to ensure that they do whatever we want. Even if they don't succeed, they should make an effort. If they come home, we should confront them. They say, look, we want a free and fair election. What are you going to do to clean up the system so that we have a free and fair election? Have you studied the judgments of the tribunals to see where errors were made by the electoral commission and then amend the law to ensure that those errors will not be there in the next election? I think that's the proper thing to do. It is not just by grumbling, and by votes will not count. That will not help the process.
There are handwritings on the wall.
Yes.
Let me bring in the judiciary now, because you are a judicial officer, you are a legal practitioner. A lot of people are losing hope in the judiciary, and it is because of their role in choosing who become leaders right now. I don't know if the word choose.
Well, it is wrong. I don't think we should depend on judges to decide who will be the president.
That's been happening.
No, it is not.
Cases go to court.
It is not. It is not. If you are not following my argument, you will see where I'm going to. You can't blame that on the judges. I don't even think we should be going to tribunals after elections. If you do the proper thing, we as voters, we as Nigerians, if we do the proper thing, we shouldn't be going to judges to burden them with election cases. And because these election cases, there is no how a judge will decide an election case that people will not disagree with him. Because it's something that has to do with emotion, politics, who get what, when and how the resources of society are distributed. So people in politics, people are always emotional, people are very sentimental. And the law does not give room for emotions and sentiments during deliberations. The judge is enjoined to interpret the law as it is written in the law book. So if the electoral law says the judge should declare a winner of an election where there is evidence that there was substantial compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, the judge will follow that enactment. The judge will not go and follow sentiments that is being expressed elsewhere that the election was rigged. And because the judge is not there when the election was conducted, he cannot be in all the polling units. The judge will depend on evidence that is brought before him. If the evidence is not well packaged, and presented, the judge will not give you judgment. And if he doesn't give you judgment, you say, "Oh, I saw people rigging in my polling unit." But our polling unit is just one among several. We have 176,000 polling units in Nigeria. So even to collect electoral malpractices, it's not easy. For what I have been involved, I was the legal team of the defunct CPC, Congress of Progressive Change, in 2011, in the elections between President Jonathan and late President Muhammadu Buhari. We went to court when Jonathan won, and we saw that it was an uphill task to even collate evidence from 176,000 polling units in the country. And it's not just a wishy-washy evidence. You have to collate cogent evidence that will stand the test of time. And most times, people who are polling agents of the political parties in all these polling units, they are not trained, they are not lawyers. They don't know how to collect evidence that will present to court. So that is it. So I was also involved in Danso Shomole contested elections in 2007, and he went to court. I was in the legal team of INEC, alongside my principal, Kanagabi, SAN. I was there. I was also the lawyer who did the case against Governor Imoke in 2007 in Cross River State that led to the nullification of his election. And the court ordered a fresh election. So that is it. So it is not easy. And then we shouldn't give that body to the court, because we may not understand the workings of the court. In court, it is law. It is not sentiments. It is not emotion. And it is also based on good evidence. And then if you don't get it, you begin to blame the judges.
But a lot of Nigerians, they
are wrong. They don't understand the system.
Oh, okay, but then I've had legal practitioners, on some of my programs who actually voiced out, let's say for instance, the election that was just conducted in Rivers State, the council elections, where APC won 20 out of the 22 cancelled. I had a legal practitioner on my program who was not satisfied with that, though we've not heard about court cases from there. That's one. Then we've also had cases where it's been believed and even consented to by legal officers that in this dispensation, the judicial system is succumbing to the whims and caprices of the executive. That's one. And all of this put together, there's a way all of this drizzled down to the electorate, and it affects their participation in choosing who their leaders are. So now, what do you have to say about the fact that a lot of Nigerians now don't believe that the judiciary is the last hope of the common man, looking at what is happening with the connection between the judiciary and the executive and everything happening in choosing?
I don't believe that. I agree with this task. Well, I won a case against a sitting governor in Cross River State. I was the lawyer who brought together all the opposition political parties in Cross River State in 2007 to challenge the election of Senator Moke, who was elected governor on the platform of PDP. And our case was that the elections were not properly conducted in accordance with the Electoral Act that was in force then. And we went to the tribunal, we lost. And then we went to the Court of Appeal. And the judge who presided over that court, the Court of Appeal, the panel that came from, they were put together by the president of the Court of Appeal from, all parts of the country, who is the current Chief Justice of Nigeria. And she just, when she was reviewing the judgment of the tribunal, she saw that the tribunal was wrong. And then she just supposed that, with my submissions, that my written submissions, my written address, and she just lifted a portion of what my submissions and said that this is the tribunal was wrong not to have followed not to have followed my submission or accepted my submission, and gave judgment and nullified the elections and ordered a fresh election. So is that not the same judges we are condemning? I'm just to an instance that I don't think that judges are the problem. We are the problem. And any lawyer who come here to begin to castigate a judge for not giving a judgment the way he wants it, then I don't think that lawyer is worth the salt.
No, Judge, I think they're referring to the system.
I don't have a holistic review of I will not castigate the system. I have told you, a lot of Nigerians do not know the workings of the judiciary. So when judgments are given, they are disappointed and allow their emotions to run riot. But the judges are not emotional. They are trained not to be emotional. Because if you are emotional, you are coming to the arena of the conflict. So the judge is supposed to be blind. That is why you see the symbol of justice, the lady. The lady is with the blindfolded eyes. You are not supposed to be swayed by sentiments. You are not supposed to be swayed by what happened in the market. But people who are not lawyers or not judges, they can get swayed by emotion. What happened in the market, in the Lubo market or Gariki market, but not judges.
All right, let's get back to the issue of governance now, because all of these things that we're saying boils down to governance in Nigeria, how the people are being governed, how many people are really having a good taste of the dividends of democracy. And that takes us to the policy of people in governance, beginning from the top down to the bottom. What's your assessment of the policy? What do you think?
My assessment, I'll give a pass mark to civilian government. I have told you, I have witnessed military government. I was born in the mid-1960s. The Civil War and then the military took over, 1966. They were in office 1979. I was in secondary school that time. And Shagari became president. Governors were elected in the states, and senators, and so forth and so on. 4 years down the line, the military came in again. General Muhammadu Buhari, the government was toppled in December 1983. And from 1983, I went to University of Jos, came out, in 1989, went to law school. In 1990, 89, 90, I did NYSC in 1991. I started life, as a young lawyer, and we were under military rule. I can say that the quality of life in the military era, and the civilian era, if you make a comparison, the civilian era is better. I have seen a lot of development. I can even take Calabar, as an example, and my community where I come from. When I am flying to Calabar from Abuja and up the aircraft, and the aircraft is descending, and I see a lot of buildings in Calabar. Calabar has expanded exponentially, from 1999 when the civilians took over, until this 2025. We may not get there to the promised land, but I think that we have made a lot of progress. And every country must pass through a trying period. Even in the U.S., we have not even experienced what happened in the U.S. There was a small war in the U.S. in the 19th century. After Civil War, there were a lot of other issues, racism and so forth and so on, until the Depression, the Great Depression, from the late 1920s to early 1940s. America was in a terrible state. Jobs, thousands lost their jobs. Housing, was homelessness. There was so much poverty in America until Roosevelt came in with a new deal, and he was able to reform America. America became a world power, and what of China? So many other countries have passed through what we are passing through. We will get there. It is, what we need to do is to put more pressure to make governments in our country to be accountable, the senators to be accountable, the members of the House of Reps to be accountable, the local government chairman to be accountable, and a lot of them refuse to be accountable. They refuse to be accountable. No, in the federal level, there's a semblance of accountability. There is so much pressure on the president today, but if you go down to the state level, that pressure is not exerted at governors, and the governors are controlling resources. Okay, they are controlling resources of Nigeria. So the resources are not all at the center; they also at the local government level. But I come from a local government area across the state. How much are they receive from the federal government, from the federation account, from January to September 2025? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what they are doing.
And they are subjugating the local government autonomy.
Yes, even then, because why is it we don't know what they are doing? Because we don't put pressure on them to tell us what they are doing. If you go to my community, everybody is carefree about the local government. It doesn't care what is happening to the local government level. But the local governments are supposed to play a very important role.
But don't you think that all of that is because they feel the governors are still somehow indirectly in charge of the local government?
Well, if the governors
imagine the issue of local
governors are doing that, do you know why everybody now should go and get a card? For any governor who tampers with local government autonomy, let us have people voting against that particular person if he wants to come back to office again. Yes, any governor, we have evidence that the autonomy has been granted by the federal government, by the Supreme Court judgment, and the governors are reluctant to allow local governments to function properly. Then we should, use our card. If that same person, if that same governor is going for re-election, we should vote against him. And the political parties must campaign or must not give tickets to governors like that.
Do you believe in the influence of the powers that be in selecting political office holders?
Well, even if there is influence, we can still, make those who want to influence, we can also make it difficult for them to influence.
How is that done?
Oh, you see the problem with our country? Money. We love money, and we just shake crocodile tears over corruption. Because the political parties, I went to be a senator for my district, from Crossriver State, in APC, and people were saying that they didn't have money. They made it a campaign issue. Even people who were close to me, they were going to tell my opponent that I don't have money. That is it. And my opponent was paying 200,000 naira to each delegate that came for that primary election. And they were gladly taking the money. When we expect that those who are complaining bad governance will not collect money. Because if you collect money from somebody who wants your vote, then it is very clear that you want that person tomorrow to, when he is in office, so look for where he's going to get money to replace the money he's giving to you. That money may not come from his pocket, maybe a loan from the bank or from his friends or from somewhere that he should not get money to run elections. He gets that money to pay you, and then you vote for him, and then tomorrow you will say the person is not taking care of you. So our attitude, we have to change. The
behavioral change now.
Yes.
When and how can we attain that? Because it has been a problem. The issue of weaponizing poverty by people in governance to take advantage of the electorate.
Well, because we are greedy. Averagely.
So how can the greed be stopped?
Well, let's go back to how we were in the 70s, in the 80s. My father was just a civil servant. And he was satisfied with what he had, the little salary he was collecting. And he brought us well. He had so many children. He was able to send all of us to secondary school at least. Okay? But now, we have some people or some civil servants who wants to own property in Abuja, in Lagos, in Kaduna, in Kano, in Maiduguri. From that can come for your
we can't continue. I wish we have enough time. I wish there is enough time.
So I then, if you don't make this money, the same people you are talking of. When I was suspended from my work, when I was fighting corruption, I went back to my village. Everybody was laughing at me. My friends, my relations, they said, I am a stupid man because I didn't make money to come and give to them. They were not looking at what I was trying to do to help the country.
I think it's an applause. Thank God that we still have people like you who can refuse, to take some money to make things work the negative way.
But sometimes you begin to regret when you see that our people don't even appreciate honesty. They don't appreciate integrity. You don't appreciate industry and hard work.
I think that's as a result of hunger, which is not the right thing to do.
Well, my mother used to tell us, when you are hungry, lie down on your bed. The hunger will go. What is that? We have to be strong. We don't have to say because I'm hungry, you become a non-entity or compromise. It's everything evil.
Honorable, so many things. It has been the voice of the presidential aide and the human rights activist and legal practitioner, and now an author in the person of Honorable Obolo. Thank you so much for joining us on the conversation today. And I think we need to say thank you for keeping it straight, even though what happened actually happened, that you didn't stay to the end because you rejected some very negative and compromising positions. So many thanks for joining us. We hope to have you more again on some of our other programs and even on Global Morning. Well, this is the size of the first conversation on Global Morning today. Let's go.